The library. The Library of Illumination stands at the very heart of the bright city of Solana. Rising high above the surrounding buildings on every side, it remains a sanctuary for any person with a curious mind and the desire to learn. The soaring shelves are lined with books from floor to ceiling, towering above the heads of visitors and staff alike. Scholars of the light of soul draw books down with a gesture, ether curling through the air as they source another volume for their studies. Citizens of Solana sit quietly in the archival wings, reading tomes and illuminated manuscripts, while children gather at the feet of acolytes in shining robes, listening to tales of noble knights and radiant scholars. 8 magisters watch over Solana's golden walls and towers, guiding its people throughout the ages with grace and dignity. Each one is ordained under the light of soul, and all work alongside the Grand Magister to bring peace to the land of Wraith, to unite all under the banner of soul. One Magister watches over the Library of Illumination and is responsible for overseeing everything that occurs within its hallowed halls. The librarian oversees all, a radiant and dignified custodian, dedicated to guiding the library's patrons along the path of the light. Carrying an air of mystery, they are as timeless and illustrious as the library itself. In their role as Magister, the librarian embodies the grace of soul, sharing their endless knowledge and wisdom with anyone who seeks their counsel. Beyond their essential duty to the people of Solana and their role in caring for the library, the librarian also leads the quest for new knowledge, scouring ancient tomes and crumbling scrolls procured from across the land of Wraith. For many decades, the librarian was accustomed to solitude, preferring to withdraw for days at a time and focus on their research. However, this changed when a young girl found her way into the innermost sanctum of the library and quickly established herself as the librarian's would-be apprentice. With their protégé by their side, the librarian seeks out the truth behind the recent onslaught of the shadow, using their talents to unravel the mysteries which now threaten their fair city of light. Prism, sculptor of arc light. The Library of Illumination's innermost sanctum contains a strange secret. Deep within the Library of Illumination's innermost sanctum, once a Magister came across a young child, small and silent, her hair almost glowing in the lamplight. Her pale blonde hair glowing in the lamplight, she was at odds with the ancient tomes and hidden secrets which surrounded her, an orb shining softly in the palm of her hand. Yet, in spite of her mysterious appearance within the Signoris, she appeared to be entirely ordinary. Nevertheless, the Magister struggled to make sense of the strange young girl. The child remembered nothing, whether about herself, her past, or her origins. The only clue to her history was the glowing sphere she carried, an ancient relic which baffled the Magisters of Solana. It contained a single pristine drop of arc light, one of the rarest and most revered gifts of soul. Light, made corporeal, it represented the very essence of the knowledge and illumination of the light, condensed into a tangible form. No one could explain how a child might have come to possess such an illustrious and powerful relic. And like the child herself, its origins would remain a mystery. Prism began her education in the vaunted halls of the great library itself. Brought under the Magister's wing, she was taught the history of Solana and trained in the ways of the light. When she wasn't studying with her instructors or learning about her newfound home, she would scour the library's labyrinthine shelves by herself, diving into an endless sea of books, illuminated scrolls, and ancient tomes. From the Night of the Dark Tide to Legends of the Flow, Battle of Eventide to the City of Copper, Prism explored them all, reading about the lands which lay beyond the city walls, memorizing their passages until she could recite them by heart. Quick, curious, and incredibly intelligent, Prism adapted to her new life with ease. She read as much as she could about Solana and the world beyond its walls, sailing through the vast ocean of knowledge within the Grand Library, with the Magister as her guide. Prism soon discovered the legends of the Heralds, Sol's golden emissaries who watched over the people of Solana. Before long, her ether affinity and inquisitive nature led her to the light of Sol, where she took up the mantle of an illusionist. With the Library of Illumination as her home, Prism felt deeply at peace within the city, as she had been welcomed by the people in spite of her mysterious origins. Her childhood was one of happiness and joy, spent amidst the endless halls of the great library, the verdant gardens of the Silvarium, and the streets of the city districts, sharing her favourite tales with anyone who cared to listen. In developing her skills, Prism's talents were made clear for all to see. After years of careful study, she came to intimately understand the heralds, lending more and more detail to her knowledge of these legendary beings. After capturing their very essence, Prism learned to give shape to their forms, conjuring their likenesses for the first time in living memory. As shadows begin to darken the horizon and the bells of war toll across the city, Prism invokes Solana's legendary beings, sending her creations to guard her beloved ones and smite her foes. It came to pass that, as Prism was exploring the library's halls, she came across a series of old tomes, her fingertips disturbing the almost tangible layer of ether that coated their filigree spines. When she picked up the first volume, the light revealed the seal of the second Grand Magister upon its cover, the pristine gold insignia gleaming softly. She opened it eagerly, turning her gaze to the stories which lay within. It was then that Prism uncovered the tales which would change her life forever. The tales of Aegis, radiant and shining, who shelters the city within her wings. The tales of Soraya, shrouded in mystery, who brings knowledge to the people. Of Themis, righteous and true, who balances the scales of justice and retribution. Bellona, blade of courage, who fights for the good of all. Sikkim, devourer of evil, whose righteous fury blazes through the shadow. Victoria, triumphant and glorious, who snatches victory from the jaws of defeat. Avalon, healer of all ills, whose light rejuvenates the land. Metis, the steadfast steward, who guides her people through times of darkness. Prism pored over the ancient tomes for hours, engrossed by their illuminated script and small, elaborate illustrations depicting the heralds who so nobly cared for the city of Solana. They came to the city as emissaries of Sol, bastions of the light, who worked to better the lives of all who dwelt within Wraith. Yet when Prism spoke of the heralds to others within the library, no one recognised their names. Inspired by their tales, she endeavoured to share the heralds with all her people and bring their names into the light. As Prism grew in years and in stature, her connection to the heralds grew ever stronger, most especially Soraya, who personified Prism's own passion for knowledge and learning. Then, one calm summer's day, something extraordinary happened. The ancient relic she carried awakened, illuminating the space around her as it transformed into a masterwork. The Magisters took this as a sign of Sol's grace, and at their urging, Prism decided to utilize her talents and her newly transformed relic and take up the mantle of an illusionist. Flourishing under the guidance of her tutors, Prism's gifts for wielding the light quickly became apparent, her talents and skills growing ever more powerful with each passing day. Her love for stories were woven into her illusions, bringing her beloved tales to life. She recreated both magical beings and creatures from distant lands, creating glowing spectres to delight the children who came to the library, or enchanting her older visitors with the heroes of legend. But before Prism could take her illusions into the golden fields, a horrific tragedy befell her beloved city. Shadows covered the horizon, a dark fog flooded the city streets, and fiendish creatures materialized beneath a sunless sky. Solana found itself in the midst of war after centuries of peace, and Prism was forced to watch as her people cowered in fear, terrified of the creatures which had erupted through the front gates. In this time of unimaginable terror, the people of Solana desperately need something to believe in. Prism is more determined than ever before to bring hope to her people, protect them from harm, and show all of Wraith the way of the light. Summoning the likenesses of her beloved heralds, she shall call down the very heavens, creating illusions which will inspire her people and smite her foes. So long as she stands, Prism will never stop believing in the power of a good story.